dude, first of all, thanks a lot for even considering jumping on this call. I know that you're such a busy guy. I don't know how you do it, but I'm grateful that you're here. And also,
I think the busyness might be a little over exaggerated. I'm not like that busy, but I get
okay. Awesome. So I mean, for the slight sliver of people who don't know who you are, that's currently watching my videos, I remember seeing you a couple, maybe 2 years back or a year back. You're running ads on Instagram, aggressively. That's how I saw you, and then I was like, as soon as I saw you. Prior to seeing you, I've been following Gary Vaynerchuk and all these guys, and I saw like a bit of a similarity there. I say, okay, you're the Sri Lankan Gary V, because you're speaking very transparently and openly about running a business and stuff like that. So as far as I know, I think you're the Chief Growth Officer of Surge, right? At the moment, could you just walk me through Surge, or like where it started and how it started?
What I tell is, because I repeat this so much, I tell people, look, there's a YouTube video that I've made. If you watch that, it covers everything.
Right.
But I'll be very succinct with this. So Surge is essentially a digital marketing company, right? It's very similar to what VaynerMedia is in the States. But I mean, we started it. We didn't really know that this industry existed. We started off as a gaming company. Like, me and my friend, we used to play lots of Let's Play videos, put it up on the internet. People started watching that content. It was super weird. We weren't necessarily good. We were just creating content because it was fun. After a while, we realized that you can monetize this, you can put ads on it, and it was mind-blowing for us. And we wanted to follow a career in video games. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but YouTube has this thing called MCNs, where you can run ads on your content and start monetizing it. We were approached by a couple of businesses that were large-scale MCNs, and they wanted to see if they could sub-license our platform. And what we did was we took that on board and started helping these very obscure Facebook game type content creators get their videos monetized on the internet. And over a year, I think it was 680 million views we managed to monetize. For about a couple hundred people around the world. We were in 60 different countries, generating 40 to 50 million views every month, and it was really fun. And suddenly YouTube decided, in its typical YouTube fashion, we're going to pull the plug on you, because we're no longer going to allow the monetization of these what they call sub networks, unless you're in a specific region and you fit specific criteria. So we had the rug pulled under us. I was doing my A-levels, not a great time. I was studying to be a doctor because my mom, my dad, my brother, my entire family is full of medical professionals. They weren't too happy with it. I ended up flunking my A-levels, and so what ended up happening was we had basically understood YouTube monetization, and this was the time. This was about 5.5 years ago. This was the time where people were really jumping on the YouTube bandwagon, especially in Sri Lanka. So businesses realized, okay, you guys, you're doing gaming stuff, but you have kind of figured out YouTube content creation. Can you help us? And we were like, look, it was super weird for us, because all this time we were compensated based on the amount of content and the amount of views we generated. But for the first time, someone's like, we'll actually pay you for the video itself. So it was super new, and it was an opportunity we wanted to explore. Plus, we had lied to our parents. We had told them that everything was going fine, don't worry about anything. But we couldn't pull that charade forever, so we jumped at the first opportunity we got in monetization, and that's kind of how Surge was born. And over the last 5 years, we've grown. We're now about 40 people based in Colombo, and so we've kind of carved our niche in this consumer behavior meets growth kind of business. We've basically been fully functional for about 3-4 years, and then we were acquired by a private equity firm called Tavistock, and so it's been one hell of a ride.
Right. That's essentially, I've watched that video multiple times, and I know the benefit. I know that you've said it so many times that it's in the back of your head. The main thing that I really want to focus on is I've had the privilege of sitting in interviews and recruiting people. And the thing that I see a lot of in this country is a mentality towards doing a job. right? Everybody that comes in either has a bad experience or don't really want to do a 9 to 5, and they have this negative approach towards, okay, you know what, I'm working, I'm having a job, and I'm a 90s kid, so my generation is moving away from the traditional thing. And a lot of people, like I'm watching you and a lot of people, they're making jobs for themselves where they can do it online and monetize their passions, right? And when I speak to them, it comes with a lot of how they have their mindset since doing their A-levels, right? And it's also reinforced with parents saying, okay, what's your doctor, lawyer, engineer plan, right? That's what a lot of people are finding out to get out of it. What about you? Like when you were doing your A-levels, right? Like what made you say, you know what, I don't want to go down that path where your parents are academic, and what was that story?
So it wasn't like this single decision like, okay, medicine is not for me. I think one of the turning points was I'm not academically bad. Like I studied like a week before O-levels. I have 7 A's. It's to be in my family, 7 A's is considered like, holy shit, you're like miserable. My brother, just to give you some context, like my brother got 9 A's, 1 B, and he cried for a week because he had a B.
Oh my gosh.
Every time my parents really talk about it, they would tell their friends and family like, oh, he failed his O-levels, right? Because he has a B. So that's the kind of background that I was coming in.
Yeah. Wow. That's how did you break away from that, man?
Not easy, right? Like, which is why I lied, right? Like, so the problem was like during my A-level exams, I remember there was like this one biology question where you had to name 5 animals that I don't remember exactly. I think it was like name 5 crustaceans or something. And I added animals that were technically crustaceans, but they weren't in the answers sheet. Therefore, I did not get marks. And to me, that was like, wait. So you're telling me I'm right, but I'm not going to get any marks because it's not in the answer sheet that was crafted like, I don't know, 20 years ago at the time, right? So that really pissed me off. And I think after that, it was just like a series of tiny events where I was like, okay, right, this is clearly not for me. And while I was so this was 2013. So while I was doing my A-levels, YouTube had really just started kicking off and I was making some money. Like behind me, there's like this entire collection of like manga and stuff. And
I can see.
That's what I did with like the first couple of paychecks I got, right? Because all my money came into PayPal. I couldn't really do anything with it. So I just started spending away on like video games and just stupid shit on the internet that I bought. So I was doing okay. At 2013, I was probably like, I was like 19 years old. I was making like $2,000-$3,000 a month. And when you're in that position, you're like, okay, and look, I come from a point of privilege. I don't have to worry about my parents putting food on the table. I don't have to pay rent. Like I don't have to worry about the actual problems that people go through, right? So obviously I had to step up. But I was looking at it like, okay, wait a second. So realistically, if I can continue doing this, I could manage without going down that path. I didn't necessarily have to be a doctor, because the reason that my parents wanted me to be a doctor is so that I could be like successful in life and financially be stable and all of that, right? And all my teachers are like, don't play video games, there's no future in that. And in my head, like in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, wait a second, none of these things add up. I make more money doing this than majority of the people doing their entire life following their path. So I'm like, I guess it was worth a shot. So I just really followed that, and one thing led to another. It wasn't planned. I didn't really think of, okay, this is what I had to do. I just realized I would not be okay in an environment where I say the right things but are technically wrong because someone else's right is slightly different from mine. So I guess that would really be like the starting point, but there's no like one defining moment. Right.
Yeah, okay, cool. So like when I saw you, okay, you had been running Instagram ads aggressively. What was that? Because I feel like that just broke the cliche for everybody to be like, you know what, I don't want to run ads on my channel, this and that. But as soon as it has started happening, just a wave came over and I adopted it as well. And I found a little bit of success here and there doing it as well. what when you started doing it, what was, because you were a personal brand, you were, even though you had Surge, you were promoting Bhanuka, and what drove you to just get on that train?
So mixed reactions, right? People, there was like a group of people that are like, oh my god, look at this narcissistic piece of shit that thinks it's okay to run ads on himself, and then another group of people trying to understand, why am I burning money on this? I think, like, I wrote an article about this back then, but the cost. So Instagram stories were new. I had like 2,000-3,000 people following my content, and I had like 500 people every single day tuning into what I was creating. So I was like, wait a second, that is insane organic reach. And Instagram story ads were so underpriced at the time. In Sri Lanka, the cost of like 1,000 views was in the cents. So I could spend like $1 and reach 10,000 people. And to me, that was like a no-brainer. Like, obviously, there's going to be a massive group of people that are going to be turned off by this. That's okay. The content I'm creating is to appeal to this very small section of the demographic. I kind of understood who those people are and why they're tuned into the content that I created. So I figured, you know what, screw it. I am more than happy to make content as long as it adds some sort of value along the way. I stopped doing that when those pricing matrices no longer made sense, and everyone started doing it, and then people kind of tuned off to the self-promotional thing. Which, if you look at it now, there's like a lot of, oh, look at my Lamborghini, I have made this kind of money, blah, 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 follow me, buy my course. That became a bit of an issue. So I'm like, okay, I'm stepping off the pedal. But I think for about 6 months, I just created some content and published it, and it worked out. Like, Facebook gives you really cool targeting. I remember at one point, I even ran ads for people that really disliked the type of content that I put, with a frequency cap saying, hey, this is an ad.
I remember. I saw that.
Swipe.
I saw that.
So it was just a fun thing to do, and it was inexpensive. So I just took a swing at it.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty, because I remember when I first saw this, I know you're like a corporate guy, but essentially if you look at your lifestyle, it's a freelance lifestyle where you're working 24/7, you're on the clock, you're passionate about, because it's your own thing, right? And a lot of freelancers also, they work on their own brand or their own thing. Something that even for me to reach out, I know it's very difficult, because it's not like you have free time here and there, you're on it all the time. So when you were, creating these ads and putting, for me, what I was seeing is, wait a minute, I work for a corporate, and you were showing the work culture that you had as well, right, at office, especially at Surge Global. That's something that I, implemented to the place that I was working at. And back then I was, at grassroots levels, and it has changed my entire organization and the company in this country, and it's the better, right? So let's talk about office workplace culture, because that's something that you spoke about a lot, and that's something that resonated with me as well with you. What's wrong with the office culture in Sri Lanka right now in most companies?
And I'm not going to say this is a Sri Lanka problem. Like, this is a problem everywhere else.
Right.
Because and part of the reason we ran ads and kind of showed that to the people in Sri Lanka, because we didn't really worry about our customers seeing our content, because our customers weren't local, our customers were in the rest of the world. So by limiting targeting criteria, we know who we're talking to, right? People didn't know this existed. People thought that the only way to get a decently paying job is to work at a large bank or a telecommunications company, kill yourself for like a decade, and then eventually you climb up the ranks and you get paid. The world has changed so much. There is and I honestly thank the internet. It has created so much opportunity for people and businesses to go out there and do their own thing and add value to niche groups of people in the way they know how. And because of that, we can see this culture changing, right? I think I've told you about one of the projects that we launched recently called Rooster in the recruitment space was addressing that, right? Businesses have this really focused, they've kind of driven this narrative saying, okay, people are unreliable, we invite you to an interview, but half of the people that get invited don't show up and stuff like that. And people are essentially unaccountable. But no one really keeps businesses to that same standard, right? Because people don't talk about pay. I've spoken to people in agencies that are seated next to each other that are doing the same job, and one person's making twice as much money as the other one, and there is a massive asymmetry of information, and no one's like, wait, dude, that's not okay. Like, someone has to change that, right? At Surge, what we decided was, look, if you want to talk about anyone's salaries, talk about it. It's out there, it's open. If you were applying to the business, you can go to surge.global/salary, and it'll tell you, what you could potentially make, right? And, it was so weird that, and we did it because we wanted to let people know that, this is shitty. This shouldn't have been the way it has been, and we need to look at changing that. It has helped us attract what we believe are a better group of people. So Surge is a services business. We need to make sure we have access to the best talent. If we can't, we're not going to do well. So we've kind of seen this transparency and this thing that everyone, businesses make a lot of money by being opaque. They can screw you around. They can not give you the right information. You can make terrible decisions where you're miserable. The company's not getting good work out of it. And you're wasting everyone's time and contributing to a very inefficient economy, which doesn't necessarily make sense for us. So we're figured, screw it. If we don't pay well enough, well, at least we don't really have to have this dance around 7 interviews to know that whether you should join or not. And also it lets us tell people, look, these are the skills that you need. If you can deliver on them, this is what we can pay you. So you don't have to worry about what is career progression. Those kind of questions should be answered before you can start, so you know what things you need to do to improve. And for us, the single biggest issue is this information asymmetry, and it's the lack of transparency in business. And if that is taken away, it builds a phenomenal culture. Now, I'm not saying we have the perfect culture in all the businesses that we're involved in, but of course, it's such an obvious thing to do. And the only reason why people wouldn't do it is because there is it causes a lack of profit for businesses in some instances.
Right. Yeah, I think I lost you for a second there, but yeah, I got the gist of what you're saying, and that's, transparency. You mentioned transparency, right? That's something that is such a gray area when it comes to working, because I've me being in that recruitment position and finding out what other companies do. How important is transparency among just a team? Especially when it comes to corporate, where the standard model is, transparency is not that great. But obviously it's being proven wrong with, modern day cultures and modern day companies coming and setting up, which a lot of Sri Lankans are not aware to. A lot of Sri Lankans that are just coming into the job market and are coming they think that the norm is secrecy, right? What are the benefits when it comes to a team working together when it comes to transparency, in your opinion?
So the thing about secrecy, right, is because it's this the stigma and narrative that has been built for such a long time. People don't discuss how much money they make. It's almost taboo to talk about how much money you make, because the way I view it is the only time you should try to hide those numbers is if you're scamming the tax office, and then which is a reasonable reason to hide it, right? But it's so bizarre. For us, what we've seen is we are able to do really good work when the team trusts each other completely and everyone knows everyone has their backs. For us to be in a situation where that is the standard, is they need to know what's on the table. I need to know that what I'm doing is the right thing, and having these levels of transparency really helps building that trust. It's not the only thing that's required, but it is so important. You feel weird, right? If you're working doing something and someone else is doing something else, but the pay disparity is there and you can't justify it.
Right. And you're constantly insecure about your job as well, right?
Yeah, because no one has told you, and you are supposed to make up this roadmap in your head, and you can't. There's no way you have enough information, and that's a big problem. big organizations are the ones that should really be pushing the envelope here, but they have so much to lose because of that. And the businesses aren't designed in a way to support them, right? Like if you look at the businesses where you have 20, 30-year-old people like that have been with the company for 20, 30 years, they're kind of stuck there. Like you can't, it's so much work to change. So what we've decided was, even, you know, companies we work with, whenever we work with startups and whenever we work with small businesses, we kind of help them guide through this process, because these kind of decisions have to be designed into your business model. If not, it doesn't scale.
Right. Okay. I like, another thing I want to really prick your brain about is like shitty managers, right? That's something that, like I have this philosophy usually, because the kind of people I've hired so far are, or have been people that we don't need a specific skill, right? If you have a good work ethic, we can train you on the job. So that's what it has been. So I had always preferred having school leavers, because they haven't worked with shitty managers, and their whole work ethic and their whole motivation to do a job hasn't been tarnished. That's what I really want to say. So I mean, for people who are under like shitty managers, who have no choice other than to, you know, work in that position or a shitty organization, right? Because that makes life a lot worse than it should be in your head. How can they, you know, like make their situation better for them? Like in Sri Lanka, in the context of today in Sri Lanka, because we are in a special age, we are in a special time period where, you know, people are walking around with masks. How do you deal with a bad boss? Like,
I attribute a lot of shitty managers to shitty business models, because
like, well, that makes sense.
A shitty manager is a point of view, right? I can be really good to someone, like in their point of view, versus someone else who will let go, looking at me like, oh, this dude is obviously full of shit, he has no idea what he's talking about. Like if you look at our businesses, right, majority of the people in the business actually know our P&L, how much like we charge our customers, what the breakdown of costs are, and they're involved in actual decision making. And I think because it all comes down to visibility, right? If someone who's joining the business doesn't necessarily know what they're trying to achieve as an organization, like what are they trying to do, right? If you like, I'll give you an example. Surge is in the business of helping businesses grow. It's fairly straightforward. The way we make money is we charge for services that we do. It's predominantly around marketing, creative, analytics, managing ads, and those kind of stuff. So if people that are working in the business don't know what our KPIs are, what our metrics of success are, the managers or the team can't really understand what it is that we're trying to doing. So because of these things and businesses working in silos, it just starts, you know, creating this rift, and people not knowing what the micro goal versus the macro. They can't see big picture. And it's because you've designed this environment where you actually can't see the big picture, because you've been hidden from it. And you're given this tiny piece of the puzzle saying, okay, fix this. So they can only view the world in that little framework, right? Now, the problem with this radical transparency approach is that, well, they will know everything. And you as a business, you as a CEO or as a manager in a business need to know that, you know, this is a lot of information. How do you manage this? Because you can also get down in the weeds and like try to go down a rabbit hole. So it's tricky, right? But we've realized that there's a lot more to gain with that transparency than there is to lose. Because the only thing is, people can technically take your IP and try to replicate what you've done. I know this is funny, but we had like 3-4 people in the business at one point that were like fairly close to leadership, and they were helping us with project management, development, design. Amongst the 4 of them, they had enough skills to kind of replicate a certain level of the work that we do. Like they broke off, they started their own thing, said, hey, we are now a growth business, this is what we do. And like, you know, I've been following them for a while from the like outskirts, and you realize like, look, it's a lot harder than you think. Like just because you have a skill doesn't necessarily mean you can go ahead and replicate it and do that. And realistically, if it could be done that easily, then you haven't really built anything of significant value anyway, right? So being able to understand that is critical. So for us, it's always been like, we are transparent. People that are working in our business can see the contracts, can see who we're working with and why. And those metrics for us has really been the game changer. And it starts building that culture because people that are working in the business know that the business has their back. When COVID-19 broke loose and things were going to shit, like companies did not have money. We were having to make this really difficult call because we had to decide what to do. Because in March, we were like, it's the end of the financial year. That's when we were giving out bonuses. And, you know, and here we are, people are like, okay, pay cut for you, pay cut for you, pay cut for you. Oh, you guys are like, and we had like, we were going to this point where we had slowly built up this pile of cash, and we had a steady growth over the last year, and we're like, okay, if we do this, we are increasing salary by an average of 20-25% across the business. We are paying roughly 2 months of pay to a bunch of people. Like we had 40 people at the time, and you know, we are about to go into this shit show. Is this the right call to do, to make, right? And then at the same time, we're like, you know, we talk about people are our number one asset. We're a services company. We care about the people. We care about the culture. It's times like now that we actually have to show that, and not just like freaking put it up on the about us section of the website. Like you have to, you know, commit. So we decided, screw it. Like we're going to figure out how to manage the revenue. If that means that things go to shit, we lose customers and we have to raise capital again or go into debt, we'll do it. And we made that call, and like, knock on wood, so far we're good. Like we haven't really lost anyone because of COVID. In fact, we've started getting more work.
But that's good. That's good.
Those are really tough decisions to make. And people in the business, because they have that level of transparency, know that you've made those decisions. They know the implications of those decisions. And, you know, the board decided we are not going to take a dividend this year.
Right. Oh, wow.
Like, I'm a 42% shareholder of the business. When the company says we're not taking a dividend, I'm putting money on the table and saying, screw it, I don't want it. We want it to go back into our people. Now it's been amazing. Like 4 months since then. We're at a point where we have never been more financially stable. We have a pretty, like, if all of our customers stop paying us from today onwards, we can still pay everyone current rates for like 3-4 months before we even have to consider a pay cut. And that's a really nice place to be. But, you know, it requires making some really tough decisions. And if you're talking about you're going to stand behind your people, you have to show it.
I think you essentially just told me something that was in my head as well. You know what? You have an employee. You are in charge of, you know, easily a pretty big number of, you know, personnel working for your company. Do you see the transformation of how when an employee walks in through the doors for the first time, and the point where, you know what, it takes some time for the employee to care about the company, right? Yes, they are, you know, they're walking in, they're getting a salary, they're doing a job, but there's a transition phase where, you know what, the goals of the company and what the company stands for align with the employees, and they start caring about the company. And I think, you know, not having a pay cut and, you know, going through with the bonuses certainly facilitates that, because then, you know, they even give more than they want to give more to the company because the company is very looking after their people. How, okay, we have salary and we have bonuses. How much of impact does culture play on the mindset of an employee to care about the company, as in addition to, you know, having the basics as salary and benefits and all of that?
Look, like the way I look at it is, you need to believe in what the business is trying to achieve at some fundamental level. Like, as long as that's there, I think the next most important thing is the quality of people in the team.
Right.
And, you know, like like what we try to do is have like this basic asshole test, where when you hire someone, like the first thing in everyone's mind is this person an asshole?
Right.
I remember where one interview, there was this guy that was like really good, that we had like 4 people in the interview room, and he shook hands with everyone besides the one woman in the room. And we're like,
wow,
that's a really shit thing to do.
Yeah.
And like he fits price, he fits skill set, and we were desperately looking to hire for a project that we signed up on for.
Right.
And like just being able, like, as soon as he walked out, everyone looked at each other and like, yeah, not gonna work, right? So I think that is a massive problem. And I think that's the kind of thinking that we need. Doesn't mean like every decision we've made is right. Like, we've had people that join, you realize that they're toxic and they're going to start ruining the culture that you've built.
Right.
Like, we let them go. This month, last month, like, we had to let a couple of people go that were relatively new hires, and it wasn't because we had a COVID related issue. It's because they just did not fit into the culture. And something you touched upon as well, Lahiru, was that when someone joins, they, you guys are looking for freshers because they haven't gotten like bad experiences, companies, and they don't have bad habits. But like, if you're in a business which requires a certain level of statistical skill and experience, like, we manage millions and millions of dollars of media. We can't have someone who hasn't gotten experience to play around with that, right?
Exactly.
So unfortunately, it's one of those things where it's a bit of a trial and error, where we try to get the right person, and if they're not the right fit, you just let them go as quickly as possible. The fact that everyone else is busting their balls trying to move the business forward, they see that, and hopefully what ends up happening from that is that it builds a sense of loyalty, it builds a sense of camaraderie to work together to achieve everyone's goals. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and you have to cut the cord as soon as possible.
Interesting.
We have a brilliant ops guy in the business. Our COO, he enjoys firing people. Like, I can't do that. Like, I cannot do that. And he enjoys doing it. So it's like, great, this is the perfect combo. I'm out. Do your thing.
We are in a situation. I made a video a couple of days back saying, for some of us, we are in like a perfect situation with the whole COVID thing, as bad as it sounds, simply because a lot of opportunities are going to just suddenly come up. Businesses are going to look at people who don't have the overheads of a advertising agency or like a production house, who can make things quickly and fast with their own hands, as long as like a basic skill and you can monetize, right? And that's how that's where my mindset is at, and that's what I'm trying to tell anybody who watches it, that it's not all bad, right? There are so many services that people are looking for to either make a video or come up with a marketing campaign for a lower cost. You as an individual can go and if you have these skills. What are your thoughts on that? Like in Sri Lanka right now, where people are just adopting the whole e-commerce culture of working at home.
So, couple of things. I actually wrote a post about this. I sent you before the call as well.
Yeah.
But, in any recession or any economic shift, there are winners and losers. Unfortunately, the COVID situation, there are realistically more losers than there are winners. But it still creates opportunity.
Yeah.
I think if you can observe what is really happening, right? In Sri Lanka, the reason that we believe e-commerce is picking up is because, well, you don't really have a choice. If you want to eat, you have to get it.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that e-commerce is the future.
Right.
So, my mom now knows how to use Uber Eats and Pick Me Foods really well, right?
I read that.
She is not the most technologically advanced person, but what's happening is the next time there is, be it a consumer internet app or anything comes out, she's going to be more open-minded about the internet.
Right.
So I think the real difference in a local level, like in Sri Lanka, is that we have like a layer of trust around the internet has been built, and that infrastructure is spreading. It's not spreading as nearly fast as enough, but it doesn't mean you need to jump on e-commerce, right? Like it means that there is some sort of opportunity that's opening up, because information going from point A to point B has been incredibly fast. It has slowly like built up over time, and now the pool of people that you could access, like Sri Lanka has a 22 million population, 7 million active internet users.
Right.
That 7 million is going to grow. Depending on who you're going to speak to, they're going to give you a number between 6 to 10, but realistically like 7 stable connections. That number is going to grow, and that changing is a really, really powerful thing. And whatever you're doing, and like when you mentioned that businesses are looking for flexibility, and that's what they've looked for all the time. The reason is like when you grow too fast, you become comfortable, you have enough revenue in the bank, and you know, you start buying these pool tables and fancy offices, and you realize that value is created in a small portion. It's not created everywhere, and you have to start optimizing for value. When there is a cash crunch, people will spend money on the things that are they consider the most valuable. Like what we say is, if you're letting go of your team, you are making and you're not cutting spend in different places. You are making a discerning choice, saying that this is what I value more than the other. And like money as a construct is an exchange of value. And that's all there it is. So the value chain across things over the last 60, 90 days have changed so dramatically, where, you know, things that you thought were incredibly important just completely disappeared. You can live without it. And now you've placed that same value on things that are more important and viable for you now. Like if you take the e-commerce component in Sri Lanka, I think after like in a couple of weeks, that's going to die down really quickly. But it's still going to leave an opening for a lot of new things to change and a lot of new things to happen. And that's where we are focusing on.
Right. Interesting. To end things off, you know, like last year, me personally, I went through my like a first big financial loss, right? With investing and stuff. And I know there's no like, I don't know if there is a direct, straightforward answer to this, or if there is like a gray area. How would somebody deal with loss? Because I know so many people, as soon as you get that first blow or that first loss when it comes to a project or a huge venture that they're going through, they break down and then that's it. Like they don't go after it. How would you say the best way to start off? Is it surrounding yourself with the right people? What's the major?
I'm conflicted, right? So over the last 60 days, we had a project that we were betting very heavily on. Like I personally had like overall cash of like 50 to 100 million rupees just disappeared because of COVID and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's not fun at all. It was like, I'll give you the details another time. But you know, you don't really have a choice in the matter. Like things happen, and you have one of two options. You have one or two things you can do. One, you can figure out an alternative. You can try to do something else, or you give up. And I know it's going to sound very cliche, as never give up to your thing and whatever. But like it sucks, and more often than not, things will not work out. What you can do is use the information you have to make the best possible decision. Some of them it's going to work out, some of them's not. You know, I wish there was a better answer to this one, and there really isn't. Like shit happens.
Yeah, and then could you touch about lastly, just touch about, you know, like, because I feel like this is where a lot of people are going wrong. Is like how important is surrounding yourself with the right people in your craft, just not in your personal life, but like
it's everything, right? Because like honestly, like I think a lot of people think I've absolutely lost it because of the whole like the rooster thing over the last couple of weeks. I've gotten zero sleep. People are like, are you sure you're okay? You know, you haven't really moved an inch. And it's just being able to talk to people with you at the same wavelength, who are going through similar situations, who have gone through similar kinds of adversity. Just being able to understand who those people are and communicate with them, bounce ideas off of them, it is everything.
Right.
I could have, like, I am here talking to you today about all sorts of this stuff, right? But at the end of the day, I'm doing very little of the work. The group of people that we work with right now is about 200 people across all these businesses. They are the guys that are pulling the weight. They're the guys that are doing the right thing. The only thing that I'm good at is, like, I just happen to have this skill where I can communicate on camera, and it occasionally works. But that 200 people, like, making sure that whether it's in your personal life, and don't take my advice for it, but like whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in business, you just need to find the right group of people. Because if you don't, like, imagine, like, doing this shit is hard anyway, right? Like, you are, like, the odds of succeeding are so fucking stacked against you. Imagine doing that with assholes. So what we say is, look, just find, it's having the right team is one of the most important things. And if you can't get them at the start, figure out how to get them as soon as possible.
Right. Dude, I mean, thanks a lot, man. I am so grateful that you dropped in and took the time to just speak to me. I definitely want to have a round 2 when we are in a better place so people can move around, and I can get you to my office which is in Kolpiti, and we can do a proper session where I have more control over the quality of lights and sound. Because I am a stickler for that. My channel is all about video and audio. Even though the content is important, like, the threshold of quality is so easy to achieve, which is why I'm grateful that you're recording it on the side as well. Dude, man, I thank you so much for dropping in. There's so many questions I want to speak to you about. Definitely we'll do a part 2 and part 3 maybe when things get easier. You are Banu on all socials, right? You even on
yes,
even on YouTube. Awesome. I put all the links, and definitely, dude, you are inspiring me a lot, and a lot of the culture or the workplace that I do build somewhat similar to what you do, or at least I try to, because I see it working for you, and might as well give it a shot. And you are helping a lot of people walk away from the conservative norms that do exist. So hats off to you on that, man. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad I could help.